So just to set the stage a little bit, we've got a great panel for you today. We've got Frank Stonebrooks from Blackcomb Advisors. I know you were very eager to get this discussion going, and we're
way too eager.
Way too eager.
I showed up too early.
One panel early. Samantha Rector from Zia Venture Partners, and Edward Ruppel III with Nexus NeuroTech. Yeah, can't have just one. So I'll ask each of you just to explain briefly the parameters of your funds, check size, stages, and then we'll jump into questions.
Yeah, sure. Should we start off? Or,
yeah.
So hi, everybody. Frank Stonebanks. First, want to thank Bill and Janelle and Octane and the whole crew for the opportunity to come today. So I run a small seed fund. Check sizes are anywhere from 50,000 to $1 million. But I think the more important takeaway for folks in this audience is just the background that I bring to this discussion. So I've worn a lot of hats over the years, GP, LP, I've been a 5-time operator, a number of exits, 15 years in big pharma before that. So for all of you that are out there that have questions across that whole range of topics, I think, I would definitely encourage that kind of audience participation today rather than having us drone on.
Great. Samantha?
Hi, everyone. I'm Samantha Rector. I run Zia Venture Partners with my husband, Bram, who's also here. We've made about 30 investments in what we're calling the Human 3 space. And what Human 3 means to us is ushering in the next epic of human health, well-being, and performance. We happen to be a specialist in neuro, which means we've done a lot of invasive neuromodulation specifically, but are also interested in neurotech more broadly. We've also done quite a few investments in the therapeutic space for neurological disease, neurodegenerative disease, and also neuropsychiatry across all modalities. Our check sizes range from 100 to 300K. We generally go in at the pre-seed stage. We've been known to be first check-in. We are really excited about catalyzing rounds at the early stage. And I would say that about half of our capital that we manage is reserved for follow-on investing at our discretion. So we will continue to invest in our companies later on as they continue to raise more money for later rounds.
Excellent.
That's great. Edward Ruppel, so I'm part of Nexus NeuroTech Ventures. We are a single LP family office, slightly mission-driven, so to speak. Within the family, there's a few disorders, so we really focus on neurodegenerative, neuropsychiatric, and neurodevelopmental, specifically autism, Parkinson's, and bipolar. We're lucky enough to have a great backer, so we can basically cover the entire private range of investments from $500,000 all the way to the largest check we've written was $75 million. And so that's a fairly broad cash capability, but a very constricted indication. And so more recently, we actually spun out a side fund that we'd love to talk about a little more privately called Ground Effect, where we're doing broader neurotech. So that's all aspects of neuro, including neurovascular, which we were unfortunately not able to do as part of Nexus, but we're very excited about the space.
Great, thank you. We're going to jump right into the questions from the audience. What is one neuro thesis that has changed your mind? Preferably in the past year, but we'll open it up.
Neurothesis. Let's try and define it a little bit more together, I guess.
So I can't speak for the person that asked the question, but one thing that I encounter is I work for a fund that is only wearables, and I prefer an implanted solution.
Yeah.
So I really thrive on companies that can come to and pitch me and say, this is truly different and I will change your mind and your attitude about wearables. So I'm hearing that you're unmovable.
Yeah, I think I'm still a little bit undecided when it comes to the utility of just data collection for the sake of data collection. I mean, we had this discussion last night as well. Neuro AI is a topic that's thrown around a lot in Silicon Valley and other places on the West Coast, and I'm still waiting to be convinced that collecting data for the sake of collecting data is going to be a viable business model. I know that sounds pretty cynical, but there are some great companies with awesome hardware that have really cool potential for use cases in medicine that have pivoted to general data collection or neuroscience as a service and it's to be determined whether or not that's creating value for shareholders at this time. Maybe there'll be that big-ass neuro company that was mentioned earlier, and I hope so. I want to be convinced, but I'm pretty cynical about it right now. So it's a different way of answering the question, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree in some aspects, but luckily, if we have some philanthropic efforts, and honestly, a lot of our, I guess, core fund investments require a return. And what that means is we can't just go out and collect data and expect it to come back within a 10-year lifetime of a fund. However, since we have the ability to apply that mission-driven philanthropic dollars, we are expanding all these side projects, and I think that's where we do have this shift in thesis where we can go and invest in, like magnetoencephalography, a wearable, democratizable solution that, yes, maybe it'll take 15 years, but we can start recording data, put them out to all the researchers, let them situate, and now we can build out this network of understanding that then will allow the devices to be developed and the therapeutics to be developed that will return investments. So I do think the thesis will have to change, but it will be all these mission-driven LPs that may have something within their family that they want to treat. But we kind of have to flip it back on its head and say, this returns will come back in droves as the years come along.
Great.
Yeah, not too much to add to that. I mean, I think stay flexible, I think, is the key. I like that word because, I'm also an acting CEO for a phase 2 neuroscience company right now. And long story short, a lot of money came into the company that was destined for another asset that was not the current lead one that we are actually now monetizing through a sale. And $15 million was spent on something that wasn't really the right direction. So I think people have to just remain flexible even if your mission is X.
Great. And I'm not sure, I'm hesitating a little to ask this question. And if you're not comfortable answering, that's okay, I'll take the heat. What's a company that you passed on recently and why? And if you're uncomfortable, maybe keep names out of it if that helps, if you want to just cover concepts, but PII.
Well, obviously I won't mention that company, but I would just say, as a CTO once said to me, technology, whether it's the product or the tech or whatever, the technology can be good, but people, like you guys, make it great. So I passed on this company for people. I always look at people first before the tech.
I'm trying to think of an example where we've passed for a reason that wasn't thesis misalignment or stage misalignment or valuation blown out of proportion type situation, which is also common where we reside. I generally think that because we're investing so early, what you just said is actually one of the reasons we pass a lot of the time. It's the people, because you underwrite the team the most when you're going as early as pre-seed. And sometimes, it's not about just conviction and whether or not this scientific co-founder and co-founder duo is uniquely qualified to execute on the idea that they're bringing forward, but it's also whether or not they have a je ne sais quoi, this feeling that we get when we see that they can respond to feedback around them and actually be operationally efficient and move quick enough. I think this is an unfortunate dichotomy that exists in biomedical engineering sometimes, because you have these brilliant co-founders that are coming out of academia once in a while, and I don't think they truly understand the pace with which one needs to move in order to secure the momentum for fundraising. And it's very hard to find that combination. We think we've been lucky in finding quite a few founders in our neurotech portfolio that are exemplars of that, but it's not easy to come by. And so sometimes that is a deal breaker for us.
So it's somewhere between academic pace and move fast and break things, which you don't want to do in a brain.
It's always breakneck speed within reason, but when you're trying to raise from investors that are getting pitched all the time, I think that sense of momentum is really important.
Yeah, we've passed on you can pass on vibes, you can pass on a number of things, right? And so it's a little bit different when you can look at all aspects of from pre-seed, seed, Series A through growth. And obviously, it's probably the easiest for us to focus on growth because then they may have revenue. We can just we have easily comps. We can then easily say, okay, there's very clear paths. We've taken all regulatory risk. We've taken a lot of early commercial risk. But obviously, as we go earlier and earlier, we have to then expand our risk frame of thinking. And as Sam put it nicely, is like at the beginning, we really have focused on the team. We focus on the person, if they have the hubris, that like unwilling desire, or this unbreakable desire to win. And that's what it takes. But then as we start going through, we really need to be able to answer all the questions from the get-go. And we can pass simply on economics, on the valuation. We can pass simply on the market's not big enough. So we really need to have as many questions answered as early as possible to have conviction. And that can be very difficult for a pre-seed seed founder, where they're so tied to an idea that nothing will break them from that. And that's obviously very tied to the academic mindset of this is the greatest idea. But as we know, as investors and early people that have incubated projects, you can't really be emotionally tied to something. You kind of have to look at it holistically, step back and be like, all right, it won't make sense for this reason. And maybe I should go to something else.
All right, so carrying on with that, the next question has to do with, you're looking at 10-year time horizons on the development of some of these products. And so, yes, there are all of these risks, regulatory reimbursement, that are years in the future. So how do you evaluate what is a commercially viable neurotech company before revenue is years and years off, if not a decade or more?
We look at comparables, we speak to the physicians, we talk to payers, really try to understand, okay, is there even a code here? What would it take to get the code? What's the trial look like? What are the endpoints? And it's not so simple, but we can do as much as we can on paper. It might take 6 to 8 weeks. That's our typical timeline for diligence. But it is not easy to read the tea leaves sometimes, and you do have to take that jump and that leap of faith a lot.
Yeah.
And obviously, if we can invest in growth stage, we can jump over a lot of that. But if you're a pre-seed seed only investor, you really just have to kind of dive into the risk and hope that all these things will check as we go along.
Totally. Yeah.
So Sam, then what's one signal for you that a neurotech company has crossed the line from a science project into a viable commercialization play?
Oh, it's a good question. I mean, we stick to this rule where we're underwriting, hopefully, 1 at most 2 scientific leaps of faith. And how we define that is very subjective. I mean, I think at the end of the day, for example, one of the companies in our portfolio, they're going to be able to test their hypothesis when they get the device into humans. There are obviously a cascade of other things that they're looking at as well, but I think that efficacy readout is ultimately 1 scientific leap of faith. If there is a materials component or a breakthrough in physics that's also underpinning whatever this piece of technology is, for example, what Motif Neurotech is building. They're doing local transcranial magnetic stimulation with an implant that's sitting on the surface of the skull. There is a little bit more of a scientific leap of faith there. But ultimately, Jacob had de-risked that product with quite a bit of non-dilutive funding in academia before even bringing it to a corporate entity and talking about productizing it. So it's really hard to say. I think a lot of it has to do with being able to demonstrate where you are in the technology readiness level arena. And having a real understanding of what the minimum viable product is going to be from an engineering perspective. And so we've met people who are unable to communicate what that is. And when a team is not even familiar with the stage gates that they need to get through to do product dev, that's usually an obvious sign. But it's honestly a really hard question to answer. It's never clear cut. There's no prescriptive set of rules that one can follow when underwriting, I think.
Okay. And Frank, all of you see dozens, if not hundreds of deals or proposals within a short period of time. And it's this constant barrage of information coming at you. How does a startup compete to get your attention, whether it's against other startups, against companies that are already in your pipeline, follow-on investments for you? How do they rise to your
it's a
sight line?
No, for sure, it's a great question, because I find myself in that position often myself. I mean, it's not like it goes away, because you're still doing it. I mean, I would give the same advice I give to my kids in sports. Don't ever quit. Just don't ever quit. Don't take no for an answer. Just keep going. Don't be belligerent about it, or don't be difficult or whatever. But there's a time and a place to go back. Just because someone said no, they mean no at that time. They don't mean no forever. right? So you can go back, and there's opportunities to kind of do that. And I've had a fair amount of success doing that without being annoying.
Oh, I fully embrace annoying. I have no problem being annoying. And there is Tom Oxley said that he's the CEO of Synchron, which has been talked about quite a lot today. He contacted over 100 investors until he got one call back.
Yeah.
That's like not even a first meeting, but one call back.
Yeah.
And he was crushed, but he was, to your point, Sam, persistent.
I mean, these stories are out there across the board, right? I mean, Schultz with Starbucks, I mean, they're on and on and on. I mean, I think he talked to 300 folks before he got one phone call back, and now it's whatever, big coffee company. So you hear these stories all the time. So I just say, don't ever quit. Don't ever quit, because someone else will. Yeah. And then that gives you an opportunity to win.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to be present too. So wherever the investors are, go be there, and then really understand who they are. Every investor has their own scope, and so you need to make sure you're in scope. You need to look at their portfolio, make sure it's applicable to their portfolio, or at least complementary in some ways. And so that can be very difficult, because as you say, you talk to 100, maybe one will come back to you, and so you can definitely lose motivation at some points. But you have to be just diligent and keep going, and then you have to change your pitch. If something's not working, readjust. And so, there's been many cases where we speak to a company 20 times over the course of 2 or 3 years and tell them, hey, maybe you should do this, maybe you should do this, and then eventually it gets within scope.
Oh man, you're one of those investors. Oh my gosh.
I was trained by the big investors, right, and the Deerfield managements, where you can only come in at such a late stage, but you obviously want to grow the companies in such a way that you can then invest at a certain point.
I have some oddly specific suggestions for how to get in touch with at least us or other specialist funds that are smaller when you're going for your earlier checks. I won't speak for every small fund, but Brahm and I, we basically look at our landscape as segments and subsegments of those segments. And so for us, what I mean by that is, in neurotech, what does that mean? We think about BCIs, we think about neurovascular, we think about invasive neurostimulation. And when you start to look at a fund's portfolio, to Eddie's point, and you think about what subsegment they're investing in, or if it seems like they have a strategy where they're allocating a little bit to each subsegment, talk about in your pitch or your 1 or 2 liner why exactly it is you complement that strategy. I think that is specifically and strangely effective, because it gives us an understanding that whoever's talking to us knows what we're looking for and how it maybe complements what we're doing. Basically build an ontology of whatever that fund is investing in your own view.
Where do you think that the field is, or the market is, over concentrated or overfunding in neuro right now?
Overfunding in BCI, for sure. It's just bar none.
Not EEG? I mean, I don't know how many headbands I have sitting in a bin in my office.
There definitely is an over-concentration in these AI platforms that are trying to take in data and output something, but yet there's no defensibility, there's no actual liquidity in an exit, and so very difficult to come forward with any concept of conviction, especially when your valuation's $75 million and you've not even launched a product. So,
You've all heard my rants on the foundation model for the brain companies. That's one area. I think that's a whole conversation. But I also think the focused ultrasound space is strangely a little saturated. I mean, honestly, I think all of neurotech, with the exception of some very specific use cases in neuro or endovascular and neurosurgery, is starting to become saturated, at least in the eyes of investors that are specialized in this area. And so for us, we've seen all these focused ultrasound companies. I'm still waiting to see what the safety data is long-term on this for high-focused ultrasound. And if we keep seeing these new companies come up, it's very redundant. I think I would like to see a new type of electromagnetic radiation being used to stimulate the brain. That's what I want to see. But TBD on whether or not that's feasible or physically possible. I think maybe we're a bit tired from certain things.
Do you think there's an opportunity for some mergers in spaces like focused ultrasound or TMS, EEG, or even BCI?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's also opportunities for funds that are willing to make that happen too. I really think that It's kind of one of those things where if everyone's kind of doing something similar, better together than not. Maybe that's how the data pooling works to their advantage in some way, but I think so. That being said, you know, I've heard about like some small potential roll-ups happening with devices that are wearables, and I don't know if roll-ups and wearables is where it's at for a number of reasons. But anyway, what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I would say don't leave here today and change your websites to say it's AI driven or something if it's not, number one. Number two, don't be distracted by shiny objects. Just stay true to your course and stay true to whatever your shtick is and your differentiation, and don't just, you know, that's just, we'll see through that like that, and you're not being, you know, true to yourself and true to your product and true to everything, so.
And if you are going to go home and change your website to say you're AI focused, make sure you use AI to build your website. So we just have a couple minutes left, but there's some great questions, so see if we can power through them. Yeah.
Rapid fire.
We've heard several companies planning dual track consumer first while simultaneously pursuing medical grade go to market. How do you look at that strategy? Yay or nay? Thumbs up or down? Ooh, Frank, you're the tiebreaker. Come on.
Well, when you said dual track, I was thinking strategic versus M&A buyout versus IPO. I thought you were going a different direction with your dual track question. I will defer to my colleagues on that one.
I think Ted Lasso calls a tie kissing your sister, so we're just going to let that one go. What's one signal in a pitch that immediately increases your interest or confidence in the company?
Clinical data.
Getting to the point.
An insane conviction.
All right, how about team?
Yeah.
I know you, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Cover that one.
Let's see. Oh, I have one. Spicy. Let's go China. Should we be collaborating or defending ourselves?
You have to know what they're up to. Because there's all this great research happening. Like temporal interference, for example. We're fairly nascent in the US, but you go over there's companies that are in multi-center RCTs with hundreds, thousands of patients, super far advanced, multi-electrode, amazing data coming out of there. So it's definitely important to not only collaborate, but understand where they're at, to then potentially even bring back some innovations here. So we can learn from each other.
I think there's, look, there's different ways to take advantage of different geographies around the world depending on what you're doing. So I do a lot of biotech. So whether that's Australia or Canada or whatever, you run a phase one, I would just look at China in the same way, but be extraordinarily cautious, and not just because of the current political climate. It's just a well-known fact they co-opt intellectual property, and let's steal it. Let's just call a spade a spade. So, so you have to be just extraordinarily careful about that, not just at a personal and a company level, but even at a national level. I mean, it's a strategic issue for the nation in terms of intellectual property theft. So just think about that when you're running your business.
And trials that come back with 100% of their endpoints met in 100% of their patients.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Always verify.
Yeah. Let's see. When does a company stop being ambitious or a moonshot and start becoming unfundable?
Sci-fi claims. I mean, so do you mean at the beginning, like new company, like?
Let's presume so, sure.
Okay. I think it's unfundable when there's no plan of action to decipher utility really early. I mean, I don't know. Again, data collection without a name, something without a name, whatever it is without a name, it's unfundable. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I think Eddie said it earlier too. I mean, you got to have line of sight to a product. I mean, I think whatever the product is, you know, but you have to have line of sight to a product, because people don't put numbers in their veins through an IV. It's a product, so you have to have line of sight to whatever that product is. If that's not there, it's not fundable.
And an attainable market with an actual payer of some sort.
Okay. And last question, how do people here best get your attention, get in touch with you, not bother you, not stalk you, but really offer value to your pipeline?
Send me an email.
One or two liner via email or LinkedIn is preferred.
Yeah, direct to the point with what you're doing and how it's applicable to our scope.
Okay, great. I'll leave it to you guys to publish your email addresses or let people tackle you at the reception as we close. Thank you all so much. I know there are questions that we didn't get to. Thank you for posing them. And if you want to connect with our panelists individually, I encourage you to do that. They're all wonderful people. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.